Hey guys, welcome back to the Arthritis Podcast, official podcast of Digital and Creative Media Works. My name is David.
My name's Ben.
I fucked up the intro.
You want to go again?
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to the Arthritis Podcast, official podcast of Digital and Creative Media Works, where each week we take something from pop culture and try to break it down to better understand it. My name is David.
My name's Ben.
And I'm Laura.
Third
Hello,
time's-
I'm
Yeah,
back.
I think
Yay.
you're Laura. I don't
Fucking
know.
nailed it.
Are you Laura?
I've always
Hi,
spoken
Laura.
about you, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Now it's Futurism Month, and it's no
And
coincidence
vaguely related,
that we picked February for Futurism.
but totally not because the film just came out.
Totally not the only reason that we called February Futurism.
No.
This week we are talking about the futurism of Black Panther. Yeah, well, I feel like you guys have a lot to say. I've got a rant stored up, but it's mostly a positive rant.
I have a...
Oh, I
Film
have
hella
so
be-
many good things
film
to
is hella
say.
dope, though.
Oh
It's
my
like,
god.
off the bat.
yeah, I
man.
think off the bat,
Holy
it's a good
shit, it's a
Tech
great...
Tech is
Like, if
baller.
you haven't
Yeah.
seen it, stop watching and just go watch it,
As
because we
always,
don't want to
reviews,
spoil
if
anything.
It's in the title, video review,
yeah.
spoilers.
Name of the thing and the title of the thing.
Yeah.
Those are the thing. That was the sentence. Yeah, why don't you fucking take us off, Laura? Because you're real
Fire the missiles.
real excited in the car.
Okay, where should I start?
Start
Well...
with no, go.
You were gonna go.
I was going to say something funny, but no.
Oh, you don't have jokes?
You're not going to say the funny thing now?
Yeah, it wasn't that funny.
No, it's
Okay,
ruined.
where I want to start is I'm so happy. I'm
a
so
good
goddamn
start.
happy.
I heard you...
this-
There were moments in the film where you kind of like squealed a
You
little
audibly
bit.
like shuffled in your seat
yeah.
with
I was
excitement.
so-
You made noises during
it
the
made
film.
me very
Yeah.
excited. I was very, very, very happy with this film.
I think you were happier in that cinema than I've been in my entire life. I was like, man, it was a great film. Like, man, you having a great ass time. That's fantastic. Yeah.
There were things that I absolutely loved. One thing, the friggin' female characters, holy shit, Marvel, thank you for once.
They did it.
Yeah,
once
they didn't.
real good.
Oh
Yeah, they didn't.
my God.
They didn't fuck it up this time.
Holy shit.
They
I
got,
don't think this is like the first Marvel film to not just like cock up its female characters.
And like
Mm,
there was like a relationship in there that was like a reasonable human
sense.
relationship, and they had human reasons for not being together, and they
Which they
worked
didn't
things out. And
really explained, did they?
no, she wanted to be going all the time and like
Good.
Right. She was
and
like,
like
a spy.
helping people outside
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
Wakanda,
Yeah,
and that's
true.
why she couldn't be back with him all the
'cause he'd be
time.
the prince.
Yeah, I was.
And
I
he
was
was going to stay in Wakanda, which was pushing them apart.
right. Because my thing where she's like, oh, do you think you should be going on a mission with your ex? He's like, yeah, it's fine. I was just like, why did they break up? I guess
Because she was always leaving.
distance.
Yeah.
Distance and time is enough to break anyone apart, Benjamin. You know this as well as
Yeah.
I do. You've seen that film about the long-term
But, like-
relationship on the train.
Have I?
But but it sorted itself out because in the end their goals sort of aligned where
Right,
they
yeah.
could like be.
Which is weird that she wasn't at the end of there at the end of the film with
She's not a diplomat. She's a spy.
At the end of
right.
the film with what scene are you talking about?
At the end of the film when it was him. What's his? It's fuck.
When he was which one? When they were talking at the UN or
No,
which one?
after that, when they were in when he bought all of the buildings, he
Oh,
was there with his
Ah.
sister.
Yeah.
I need to pull up character names.
I think
you
that
better-
was a family moment. I think it was meant to be a family moment because they went there to the site of where his uncle was killed by his father.
Yeah.
So that was meant to be like a family moment.
I've got like everyone's name.
She was probably
except-
around.
Except
That's
for
also a
Black.
weird thing to take your date on, Ben. Hey, listen, let's go look at the building where
Go to
my-
the place where my family fell
father
apart.
killed his
Yeah,
brother.
I get it.
He probably clued
In-
her into
Isn't
that.
that sexy? No, what
earlier,
are you talking?
yeah.
How,
No.
what do you think romance would listen, honey? I've got a great date idea. It's Valentine's
Yeah, Ben, please never.
season. Yeah, that was. If you ever take me to a building
Or
where
take you to like the
your
place
father
of my
killed your
father's
brother,
betrayal
I'll
or
be
some
deeply
shit.
upset with you.
Yeah, okay. You guys have made a good point. Let's move on.
Sorry.
So yeah,
No, that's a good point though. I think one of the things that we talk about a lot on the show, and just talk about in general, is like making relationships feel real is really hard in film because you have so little time to do it.
I think it helps a little bit when you have something pre-established, but like you got to have reasons for like why it hasn't worked
Yeah,
yet.
they
Right.
didn't. They
And
didn't do.
Well, you're like, well, they won't they? But then it also didn't really matter if they would or they wouldn't because it was about It was about a family, and it was about decisions, and it was about helping people. It wasn't necessarily about their relationship.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
It was a nice side story. I really liked it.
Yeah, certainly. I think something that I thoroughly enjoyed that I wasn't really expecting to is the technology aspect of Wakanda is kind of interesting because it falls into that Marvel category in the comics a lot where it should be interesting, but everyone has the same toys and the same sticks, so it rarely is. So they have to do something ridiculous to like turn the tides of a battle. This film didn't really do that as much as I thought it would. Like I was expecting like a comic style twist where someone pulls out like a, you know,
Chekhov's gun.
yeah, like everyone has a big ass spear and then someone just has a giant cannon.
The
and you're
biggest spear.
No, but what
Okay.
it ended
Yeah.
up coming down to was like the loyalty of people, like, and in terms of like the leadership, where she gets their leader at like spear point, I guess,
And
it's
not a
like,
single city got attacked in this film. Which
did a big thing
I'm-
smash into another big thing?
No, nothing
well,
of that.
a ship smashed into
A
another
ship slammed into a slightly smaller
doesn't
ship.
count.
That was about the extent
No,
of
because
explosions
one of them has
in
to be
this film.
falling towards the earth. That's how
We didn't have any of that. It
No.
was great. I was
No, it
very
was-
happy.
it was very
there was
good.
no building
and the
explosions.
stakes
I
were
feel lost.
believable and
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
and-
What is this, a Marvel film?
Hey, it super wasn't.
Well, it
That's
is,
kinda,
yeah.
kinda, you know, but that's not nice.
And the other part that I wanted to talk about in
Mm.
terms of character was the villain.
Ooh,
Which
I
you know
have-
they in the trailers it was all what was his
Claw.
name, like
Claw.
it is Claw.
Yeah,
They they were pronouncing it like Crawl, which was weird.
Yeah, well, it
Um,
depends.
I think
on
that's the
but it's
accent.
cool.
So they built it up to be like he was the villain, but then they brought this other guy in.
I'm so glad he
this
wasn't the
Wakanda-
villain, because
Yeah, I mean-
fuck, he's
Oh
the
yeah,
worst
he was
villain.
a fucking horrible
He's the
Andy
villain.
worst.
Serkis is great though.
Oh, he's
I-
great, but like, fuck,
it's
he's the worst
one
villain.
of the few villains in Marvel films who just seem to be having a
But,
great
like if
time
it was
being bad.
him all the
Can
way
I-
through, it would have been terrible.
Can I just say a joke that I saw on Twitter?
Oh yeah.
So Andy Serkis and what's his name? I'm gonna pull up Martin Freeman
Yeah.
are the wait for it. They're the Tolkien white characters.
Okay.
Hey, good joke, Twitter. They're
That's-
the Tolkien white characters.
I'm glad that we've arrived at like we've peeked out of. our
That's my
promise
joke.
again.
That's my joke.
That's-
Stole it from Twitter.
We're back at the baseline.
That's my joke.
Okay,
bring us
can
back
I
on.
keep going?
Yeah,
Okay,
continue.
what,
I just wanted to mention,
God,
'cause
you've totally interrupted.
you
my
reminded
train
me
of
with
thought.
Andy
Talking about
Serkis.
Michael B. Jordan and his abs and how incredible he was as a villain.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
good
so
villain.
because the thing is, like,
So
the
good
thing,
hair.
like,
Oh,
like
his
people
hair.
get,
Very
like-
Weekend.
and Marvel has had this problem lots of times, is getting a villain to be believable, and not just believable, but to have
To be even vaguely interesting.
was that that you can empathize with their motives and that you can see, because this was a guy who his father was like, we need to, you know, give our technology to the world and like
Mhm.
fight back, and he grew up like with that in his head and
Right.
knowing that his father was killed by Wakandans, specifically by
Correct.
the king.
Yeah.
And it's so, you know, it's something that I think you can empathize with a lot better than a lot of Marvel villains. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, they're
no,
not
absolutely.
like,
Yeah. Ben and I
they're
talked-
really hard
yeah.
to empathize with. But this one, you really knew where he was coming from. Like even at the end, like you're just like, oh, it's kind of sad that he,
All right.
because you could
can I-
tell.
Can I pull out my like point that I've been boiling on?
No, because we gotta talk about narrative structure before
No.
we have to do the actual analysis part
Okay.
of the fucking episode if you don't mind.
Okay.
In the Spider-Man Homecoming video, Ben and I alluded to the idea of the man in the room scene, which is at the end of a thriller film where the character, the specifically like a life or death coming of age thriller, where the hero comes into the room and the villain is there, and they exchange worldviews.
Yeah.
And you understand the morals and the motivations of the villain, right? So in Spider-Man Homecoming, the Vulture explains to Peter why he became a villain, and you're able to actually empathize and associate with that, and you kind of were able to understand a bit of why he became the person he was. Something this film did really well is one of the hardest things to do in storytelling is take those required elements of the story. So in this case, a thriller requires like a hero at the mercy of the villain scene, where the villain has a gun to the hero's head. In this case, he got thrown off a waterfall.
Classic.
In a James Bond film, the hero at the mercy of the villain is when James Bond is on his knees and the villain's got the gun.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I've got you now, James Bond."
I expect you to die.
And then they explain their plan, and James Bond escapes and stops.
With their plan now
Yeah.
known, yeah.
That's where that required beat of storytelling comes from. Something this film did really well is it took those required moments of this kind of genre that they were trying to hit, and it turned them in ways that I haven't really seen in cinema. I don't think it's been done like this in as many different ways. Like, instead of hero at the mercy of the villain with like a knife to his throat, it's him getting thrown off. He gets thrown off the waterfall in the middle act. That's like getting closer to death, and then it's his sister who's at the mercy of the villain with the gun, and then he saves her. And then there's a few other kind of cool turning points toward the end. But I think if you're going to talk about the reason this film works and is so interesting as far as the narrative is concerned, one of the biggest elements is taking those required beats of the scenes and just like injecting them with life and passion and energy and excitement and like really cool gadgets and just very cool, very good fighting of very cool people.
Yeah.
The cloaks, when they whip out the cloaks, and the cloaks turn out to be shields.
Yeah.
That's like a nice surprise. And then at the end, mirroring the Helm's Deep trope of like you have the army arrive at the last minute.
I literally
Oh,
during
man.
the film like that happened. I whispered at Laura's just like Rohan comes to
That's
aid.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it's a great trope because only insofar as...
keep going.
No, you go. I was going to say it's only good in this film because it makes character sense for him to arrive at the last minute.
But like that like the other thing that reminded me of was like, so the way that they set it up with those guys, I don't know what they were called, but like the
bad
guys
guys?
that live
Mountain.
in the
bad
mountain,
hill blokes.
yeah, the mountain
Yeah.
people. But like in another story, those mountain people would be the enemies, and like I was fully expecting them to be like fully antagonistic,
You keep going.
to be like properly antagonistic to like the heroes and to be like secondary villains or something like that. That's something that really seemed like it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But then, like, but because he'd spared his life earlier, or gotten him to spare, like, told him to surrender because he didn't want him to die because he was the leader of these people.
Yeah.
Because he'd done that sort of good deed, it came back and it rewarded him, and it showed not only that his good deeds would like karma and all that stuff. But also, it showed that there was like nobility and honor.
Yeah, like
that's
the
I was
word.
looking for.
Yeah. They're not just like generic baddies who are bad for no
Yeah.
reason. They were bad
It's like-
because they got screwed over by the...
Well, they decided to just like leave.
They were like,
it's
nah.
like you break up and it's like, come on, at least give me a fucking phone call. Jesus, we're like 10 meters away in the hills. You can't
Yeah.
send a postcard for Christmas? Like, we were together for hundreds of years and you're like, nah, just, your phone, who dis? Like, I get
Well,
that
actually,
motivation.
they were enemies throughout their history.
Oh.
Well, they
'cause,
became enemies
the
once
king when the king
Black
united the
Panther.
tribes, they decided not to unite.
They were like, listen, we're good here.
They were like
not-
Black Panther, more like no thank
More
you.
like, goodbye. At the time, the joke didn't play very well in the room because there were people with spears and stuff. But I imagine, in hindsight, very funny to the Black Panther. He was like, oh, they got me good.
Like that's a good one.
Yeah. No, it's like, something that I'm curious about with, and this is the Marvel problem, right? And this is the problem of building a film in a universe that is so interconnected is you can't really do anything because the world has to remain at a certain status quo until your big
Especially
event
given
films.
where this film resides, which is
Just
isn't this
after Civil
smack
War.
bang between like two other films? Isn't this like
This is before Thor and after Civil War. So it's just after Civil War, but
yeah?
before Thor.
To be fair, Thor doesn't really
Yeah,
happen on
Thor
Earth.
is just all Asgard.
The same as like saying something like technically these happen like what before Guardians 2 as well.
Guardians 2, no, oh god. Okay, so
Let's not
I-
go
Yeah,
into
it
the
doesn't
timeline.
really
you know what?
matter.
It's Spider-Man Homecoming's fault. They fucked it up because they were like 8 years ago, and then that really fucked everyone up because they're like,
Everyone's
wait,
like,
when was the New
"Ah."
York incident? So it's not important. Suffice it to say, this occurs just after Civil War and before Thor.
Yeah, well, you can
Which-
tell
which-
it's after Civil
Which
War.
is to say
yeah.
nothing of what Guardians of the Galaxy is because I don't want to give myself a migraine
Yeah,
trying to work it out
let's
again.
Not, let's-
Yeah, I
It
think it's beyond our
is-
scope.
You need math, and we just can't. So
Yeah.
we're gonna just say that. My point being that like it's hard to make hard to do external stakes when you're making a Marvel film, right? You can't do it's the end of the world because that's going to be in a main stage film. You're never going to believe
Yeah.
that the world's going to
No,
end because
they did
on
the
his hammer.
stakes really well in this film, though.
I'm fucking
Right.
I'm fucking glad it's not Under the World. I'm sick of that shit.
Yeah, well, that's
'Cause,
exactly
I
the
mean-
lesson.
I hate that shit.
What
with
helps
Marvel.
probably is they have a whole mythical country to deal with, so it
that
it
no
helps.
one knows about, so anything can happen.
Very convenient as a plot device. Don't know who thought of that, but very great job when you took that comic book and you were like, what if it was just,
What if it was just invisible?
And then
Like,
they
yeah.
were like, we got it. Which very smart, because then you're able to create stakes that are based on characters, not based on like external values.
Not based on, the Tower of Pisa is going to lean
This-
slightly more.
This big thing's gonna fall into this other big
Yeah.
thing. Instead of that, it's like, no, these are stakes for characters, and we understand why they're stakes, because at the start of the film, you're shown Black Panther being a good king and being a good brother, and it's very nice. Like the relationships he has, and the kind of the quips and the kind of the way that he deals with his power. I was like, it's very realistic. It
This wasn't
real.
too quippy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was even a single quip in this.
There was a few quips.
Well, to be fair, to
It was
people
like
at home,
I don't freeze one when he drops down, and then
Yeah, and
was
then
a
he
quip.
froze.
and then she's like,
yeah.
"Did you freeze?"
no, well,
and he's like,
when he said it, it was a quip. When she said it, that's a
Yeah.
joke because it's.
"No,
for those of
that
you
was
who
still
don't know-
quips."
No, for those who don't know, a quip is something that is said by characters that is a joke to the audience, but not a joke in the world. Whereas a joke is a joke is a joke. So a quip,
Okay.
a quip is any time that anything Tony Stark says, pretty
Yeah.
much,
Yep.
is a quip because it's him saying it to the audience because he's like, gotcha.
Yeah.
There was like there was one moment of undercutting tension in this
When
film.
was that?
You might have been out of the room. Oh
No, are you talking about the bit where they were talking to Big Bad Boy and then?
no, they were talking amongst themselves, and then Big Bad Boy interrupted them.
Yeah, no, I was there for that. That reminded me of Guardians actually, when Rocket's like, "No, it's just a bunch of assholes standing up."
Wait, what scene?
Where the
So it's just
T'Challa's
you might
just-
have been it might have been you
I
that was
might
out
have
of
been
the
out.
room.
T'Challa's
So
just come back to life, and they're
and
standing
they're all
around.
like having like and she gives him back his necklace, and she
They're
goes,
deciding
"The
to
Black
follow him."
Panther lives," and
they all agree
and
to
it's like
follow
yeah,
that's
it's
nice.
a moment, and then he interrupts it.
Oh yeah,
Big Bad
that's
is like-
that's a Rocket Raccoon.
He's like,
yeah.
"You done?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, I was enjoying it. No, I was having a good time."
So yeah, that was like the one moment. It's like,
That's a
stop
classic
undercutting
Marvel.
tension,
Yeah.
Marvel.
It's classic, but then you can't not do that because Marvel's done that 20 times, and it's so cliche in Marvel films that you
It's all
can't
they,
not
you
undercut
can't not
it.
do it anymore.
Yeah, they
It's
back
Like the
themselves
one,
into a
it's like the
corner.
one thing of DC that
I wish
enjoy.
they would stop fucking
DC
doing
doesn't
it.
do it.
Yeah, well, DC has not made a good film to where it would work anyway. So.
Hey.
Gotcha, boys. No,
I mean,
so
yeah, they're not going. DC's not going for the funny stuff.
Can I talk
yes,
about?
do your thing.
Okay, so
GD,
this
I'm ready.
GD.
Goddamn.
Goddamn.
Oh, you missed. You got to
All
come
right.
on the lingo.
So this
my
film, this film is about horseshoe politics. Like 100%.
Go ahead.
This
explain.
film is about horseshoe politics. So if you don't know what horseshoe politics is this idea that
talking about horseshoe crab.
it's the idea that at the extremes of the so this film is political. Like it is like it's a
about
political
they
film.
have different political ideals
Yeah.
about where Wakanda
It's
should
also
be.
about black people. So
Here we go. No. This will be good. You go ahead.
so horseshoe politics is this idea that at the extremes of like the left and the right wing, if you like the sort of the left and the left right sort of dynamic or axis of politics isn't a straight line, it's more of a horseshoe. So
We'll eventually get
when
to the
you're
same
so when you're in the center, like when you're in like the middle, moving left and right moves you left and right, but the further you move out, you actually kind of end up in the same
It's like
place.
Stalin and Hitler are like.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
Stalin and
everyone's
Hitler, and it's like they are ideologically completely different, but
get to the
they
same
both
place?
killed a lot of people.
They
So
both
it's
did
like,
secret police. So you're like, how did that?
yeah,
happen?
so that's the idea of horseshoe
Yeah.
politics.
Correct.
This film
No,
is like
yeah.
one of the best examples of horseshoe politics in action I've ever
Yes,
seen.
I loved it.
Because and that's why I'm like very excited for sort of opinions to come out about this film because there's definitely a subset of people who probably very heavily associated with Mr. Bad Boy,
The
Michael B.
villain.
Jordan.
Eric,
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B.
You
Jordan.
can say the man's real name. He's a real man who's very handsome. Or Killmonger, if you want to.
I'm
say.
gonna
I
call him
did like
Killmonger
his
from
style
now
a
on.
lot.
I'm gonna call him
Oh,
Killmonger.
Hair
his
and
style
his
was
bit.
so good.
So
Yeah,
he
it's fine.
like he as a character represents like the the downtrodden like sort of like
yeah,
oppressed
poor
black
people.
Yeah.
that, you
like
know.
he represents that opinion but like to the extreme.
Yes.
Like he
He's
represents
taken
the
it to its logical conclusion.
yeah, like he is literally the the kill all white people.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's literally like the super left-leaning kill all white people kind of character.
Correct. Yep.
And then on the far right side, you have, to a weird degree, the character names, man.
Are you talking about the king?
No, his friend. Sort of at the start of the film, Wakabi. Towards the start of the film, he's super because he's a border guard essentially.
Yeah.
So he's like super isolationist, and so is T'Challa's father.
Yeah.
So the original king, like they're both super like we don't bring people in. We got like they're super build the wall, keep out everyone else.
Ah, interesting.
And you have this dynamic where T'Challa goes through the motions of he faces against what fucking what's
Michael B. Jordan?
Michael B. Jordan. Killmonger. He faces against Killmonger, which is his fight against
that extreme
sort of this like radical like expansionist ideal of like let's take over the world by arming the oppressed.
Yep.
Which is like
And like killing he literally
says kill the
kill
people in power. Like
and their children.
because you gotta get the children. But it's
that. Yeah.
he literally like it's
I do
it's a
remember that.
very like extreme, and again like horseshoe politics.
Yeah.
And like he expects like that people will do what he says.
Will, like, rally behind him.
Like
Because like that's and so you have T'Challa facing against him, and he fails. He gets thrown off the thing, which is a really good metaphor for literally dying.
Yep.
Woo.
Yeah. You'll remember Two Towers, Aragorn?
yeah. Oh, it was exactly the same.
He's literally identical.
Film is
Holy
basically
shit.
This film's basically
Don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
It's Two Towers
Let's
mixed with
continue.
Two Towers mixed with the Lion King. Don't think about it, but it is.
But then when he goes and he's in the afterlife, he rejects his father's sort of opinion
Which
of
would be
like,
the other end.
which is the other end of like we have to protect our people. We must stay like isolated. It's literally nationalism.
Well, yeah, it's that's his internal.
Like he doesn't,
conflict.
he doesn't bring the child back because the child is half not them.
Yes.
Because he is half American, half Wakandi.
Yeah.
Wakandan.
Wakanda.
Let's continue.
Doesn't matter.
So it's this weird. It's the filmers are basically saying, be centrist,
Yeah, which is
which
like,
is going to piss off a lot of people.
because with the way that politics is going, yeah, but
and
basically
like,
anyone is going to
what
be.
were you
angry at
talking about the villain being like essentially just like the
He's
super left black
super
person?
extreme left,
I think that's part of what makes him so relatable. Is because it's
that's the thing.
it's an ideology
he very like
that
it,
we can see in action.
it creeps
and,
up on you.
yeah.
Like originally, you sympathize with him
He's
because
so relatable.
he's representing a currently existing oppressed minority, and you're like, of course he's fighting back because he's this thing that literally exists in the
It's
real
so
world. He's
clever.
it's not even like a metaphor. Like he is like oppressed, poor.
Okay,
black
we
communities.
talk really quickly about from the screenwriting theory perspective.
then he goes, we're gonna kill them all, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
That because it's that. So let's talk really quickly about analogs because we have to because people need to stop doing this. So this film did a good job because it didn't do any analogs because analogs are lazy. It just was like here is the distillation of the concept. It's not like in Hamlet where it's like he poisoned his brother and he wants to fuck his wife and that's a metaphor for this. It's like no in this it's like he kills the king, becomes the king to kill the other people in power.
Yeah.
He becomes the person he hates and then does the thing that people he hates.
he
are doing.
overthrows the existing government and becomes inserts himself as the head of government.
That in screenwriting theory is what we call doing a good fucking job. Instead of implying, I'm talking to you, Stephen Moffat. I know you're listening. Instead of implying some greater meaning is occurring, you just literally show the events and you let the implications be what they are based on the characters in the script and the stakes. You don't feel an obligation to prove to your audience that your script has meaning if you write a fucking script that has meaning. And that was that's the most refreshing thing about this for me, because having come off the back of DC and being like, man, they make earnest films. That's great. And Thor, where I was like, oh, you can have a fun Marvel film. This one, I was like, you can have a Marvel film still that has something to say that is valuable.
And it's weird because a lot of, and this is kind of coming back to like, I get exposed to a lot of garbage on Twitter and like it comes through somehow. I don't know how, but it comes through.
It's Jack's
And
He's let it slip through the cracks.
And this film was like really, really being kind of like held on this pedestal as like, it's like, you know, it's a super progressive film.
Mm-hmm.
And you go
probably similar to what happened with Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and it has like elements of like what I feel made Moana a really strong film, in terms of like being like ethnically relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were some lines in this that were dropped that were like, yeah, like that's a good point. Like where he mentions that like, you know, didn't everyone like the idea that everyone came. Everyone
came
sort of
out of
originate
Africa,
out of Africa, which is
potentially an implication that maybe out of Wakanda as well,
which is true.
Yeah, everyone did come
like,
out of Africa.
Yeah, so like that was an interesting thing. Where it's just like, you know, shouldn't you be saving everyone because technically everyone's Wakandan? It's like they took these things like, and it's the kind of thing where like a line would drop and like my brain would tick over and be like, that's a very Twitter thing to say.
Right.
But then they would like take these Twitter things,
crank it
up to 11 and you're like, oh, he's kind of turning into a bit of a Nazi.
Yeah, when you make the speaker too high, it distorts the bass and it hurts my ears.
And it's this weird thing where, again, like I said earlier, I feel like some people are gonna get really pissed off at this film.
Kind
like
of
people,
excited.
oh, I'm very excited. I let this be known. I'm very excited for the people who started off really being behind this film and left the film being angry. Because the film is aimed at those people. The film is aimed at the people who went in going, all white people are scum, and it takes that opinion and says, here's where that takes you. It turns you into him.
At the risk of broadcasting my political ideology to the entire internet, I do really agree with a lot of like the ideas that this film presents and the way that it presents it. I think it does a very smart job of like starting a discussion around these sorts of issues and being entertaining at the same time somehow.
I think an important part of it is that even just from the perspective of the characters in the film, it's a Black American it's a Black American coming into this like African,
and like he
society.
looks like them, but at the same time he's an outsider and they see him as an outsider as well.
Yeah,
really
and it's this interesting kind of like dichotomy where it's just like you're the same, but being from America, it gives you a different perspective.
He's literally confronting his ethnic heritage versus his cultural heritage.
Yeah.
Where his cultural heritage is America.
His cultural heritage is like, and like his last line of like the film is like horrendous. It's gut wrenching. It's like, oh my God. His line where he's just like, bury me in the sea because my people knew that. Oh my
God.
Jumping off the boat was better than being in bondage. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. But again,
so rough.
But at the same time, like at that point, he's kind of he's become redeemed.
Yeah.
In a weird sense.
Well,
I think he still hasn't let go of his ideologies, but
he's died for it.
Well, but he's been because he was redeemed. He was redeemed by the fact that.
Well, it wasn't his fault in the first place.
Well, like he was redeemed by the fact that he never needed to be redeemed because what he was doing wasn't the film doesn't explicitly condemn his actions.
No.
What it condemns is the extension of his actions to their extreme. What the film does rather is comment on the relevance of those actions.
Because the thing is that they say that it's a monster of their own making, and they're right about that. And
they're saying nationalism creates people with guns who do bad things.
Yeah.
Which like. Yeah.
And like it wasn't his fault that he got left in America like
the system
and that rage about his father being killed by the Black Panther got to fester inside him for years and years while he grew up. Like that's not his fault. They did this to him, and it's part of what makes him such a good villain. God, I could go on about how good a villain he is.
I think this film is going to piss off the most people because it's like the sort of overall message is generally of globalism, so that's going to piss off the nationalists. And then it has this anti-extreme extremist perspective, and that's going to piss off the extremists.
Yep.
And
so I'm excited. Twitter's going to be very entertaining.
Anti just giving people weapons as well, because it's they're like, we don't want to help people by just giving them
it's anti
weapons.
It's anti like step one violence.
They're like, you don't fix the world by violence. You fix the world by helping people and science and stuff like that.
If you give a man a gun, he doesn't learn to fish. Like, that's not what the metaphor is. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And they literally back that up in the film by going, we're going to build community centers and we're going to help people that way.
And they succeed by dropping their weapons. They don't succeed by killing everyone.
Yeah, which I think, like, that, if you take the concepts of the film to its natural
He doesn't even kill a rhino, he just kind of places it underneath some debris.
He does,
and then leaves.
yeah.
Which,
I thought
by
that
the
was a
way,
bit convenient,
the rhino,
but...
kind of cheating. Like, no one else had rhinos. No one else had big creatures. You cheated a bit.
Yeah, they were the border guards though,
cheeky.
and they like.
It's still cheating.
I guess they got rhinos.
I mean,
They kind of a Captain
it
Jack gun
was
thing,
good that they introduced the rhinos earlier. Otherwise, it would have been out of nowhere. But they did have.
It would have been amazing. It would have been like rhinos.
No, but I think, like, to kind of summarize what we've talked about with the thing that I was kind of thinking about coming out of this film is that when you approach a property like this that exists within the Marvel sphere that isn't directly tied to other existing characters, like, you know, Claw comes back, but he's not like a big part. He's in the second Avengers film. He gets his arm cut off in that, but he's not really in the films, right?
Yeah.
When you have a property like this and you give it to a director, similar to how Thor Ragnarok was, where you say, just do your vision to the best of your ability, and you have a film that, as everyone is reporting, like, it is showing them something they haven't seen in cinema before and would like to see more of, and it also tells a great story that is kind of relevant to the times that we're living in. I think that is when the intersection of, like, your screenwriting and your philosophy and your politics and all of this stuff can kind of come together and do something that might have value beyond, you know, a rewatch in 2 years' time when it comes out on Netflix or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's more important than, you know, making two big things hit two other big things. Ben, it's the time of the week. You got any recommendations? What you been peeping? What you been listening to? What you been watching? What you been?
I don't know.
All that good stuff.
Surely something.
Warframe. Been playing more Warframe.
You two shared that horrifying look of like, fuck, what have we been doing?
No, I've got some things.
Yeah, oh yeah. What have you got?
Yeah.
I got a couple things actually.
Yeah.
So I just listened through a podcast called Dirty John. It's a good one. It's basically what?
Continue.
You've picked
I
up.
just had a Google. Had a giggle.
Okay.
Shut up. Anyway, it's basically a documentary, like a crime doco in podcast format. It's great. I've also been reading a book called The Poison Garden by Sarah Singleton, I think the name is.
Yep.
Good book. Worth a
Excellent.
read. And just today I started listening to the NY Times Modern Love podcast, which
A really good one.
yeah.
Yeah, I really like. They do a lot of really good podcasts. I've been reading a lot. I've been reading the book that Laura gave me. It's good. I'm reading that. I've been rereading The Dark Tower, and then I just finished Dirk Gently season 1. You gotta peep it. Don't watch season 2. It's dog shit, but season 1's great.
I started watching it when it came out. And I got like halfway through the first episode. It's got supremely confused. But hey, it's got Elijah Wood, so I might get back into it.
He's great. He plays like a drop kick.
Yeah, I thought he was Dirk Gently.
No,
I'm
he's
kind of
just-
sad that he's not Dirk Gently.
He'd be terrible at it. He's a great rundown. Like,
Yeah, I know he is. Well, because I have no,
Lily.
I had no idea that the books even existed.
It's really.
Oh,
So
my
I had-
mum reads the books.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
dog, they're that old. But
Man.
the TV show's great. It's basically Doctor Who, but not shit because it's not run by Stephen Moffat.
Hui.
Except for
Ooh.
season 2. which
We're a bit through.
Are you excited for Chris Chibnall in the next season?
I'd rather die. I'd rather die. He's not made anything good in a long time. It's not important.
Fine.
Anything else for recommendations? I finished Subnautica. You should play Subnautica. I finished it, and you know it's fine. It was deeply emotionally affecting for me, but I'm fine now.
But
so.
you're okay.
No,
Okay.
Oh,
it was
we'll
like
get we'll get back to you, David, on that next week. We'll see if you're okay.
We'll see
then.
how I'm doing then.
Yeah.
Anything else, or is that it for recommendations?
No, that's
nothing
it.
good.
That's all I got.
Wow, that's pretty good though.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff. But it's that time of the week, Ben. You got to do the thing where you tell the people where they can find us
Facebook,
at DCMWorks Social,
Twitter,
at DCM_works.
YouTube,
youtube.com/DCMworks.
Patreon.
This gets harder every week where my brain
I kind of
stops
just
working.
shuffle it around
I know,
every time
right?
as well.
Which is-
I always end with the classic though.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah,
Patreon.
yeah. So
That one.
patreon.com/DCMworks. I've started using the lens thing. If you're a Patreon, you would have seen some sweet
a really
pics
bad photo
from the
of
theater.
us at the theater.
Expect
yeah.
more of that, a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. I posted some stuff yesterday as well. I'm not going to use it too much because I don't like social media, and it's kind of like social media. But
You gotta pretend like it's Snapchat.
yeah, so I'm at Twitch again. I'd rather throw my phone in the toilet, so I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do my best. We've got Interface Part 6 coming up next week. I finished editing. I fixed the audio. It only took me
dude.
4 weeks.
Hell yeah, dude.
So that's coming out next week. Keep your ears.
That's
you can't watch
exciting.
it. Keep your ears open. You can get that if you're a $3 plus subscriber on Patreon. It is one of the best and has the most disturbing chapter in it of all time. All I'm gonna say is it involves some Nazis.
Just a couple of
There's
Nazis.
a couple of Nazis hanging out.
Maybe one or two.
Maybe one or two. But yeah, if you subscribe there, you get a bunch of exclusive content. Last week, Aaron and I put out a Blade Runner Part 2 where we talked about whether or not it's actually a sequel. Spoilers, it's not. You can listen to our reasoning behind that and a whole bunch of other stuff if you subscribe for more than $3 a month. And as well as that, you get a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff, some making of, where I go through video essays and I talk about how I put them together, and early access to the antagonist video essays 1 week early. And I think that's it. You're also going to see next month, or maybe late this month, we're rewatching every Marvel
Every
film.
single
it's gonna
Marvel
be
film.
fun. Also, I'm gonna be there because
Laura's instigated this whole operation.
'Cause
And
Laura
I might die of
is-
quip overdose. So.
Yeah.
If halfway through I don't hear from me again, you know what happened.
It is going to be rough.
So
I'm not
Oh,
looking
man.
forward
Look
to it
forward
in
to
the
that.
slightest.
I'm-
Yeah,
I mean, you
it's
guys
gonna
should
be a
look
lot
forward
of,
to it, but
a lot of late
nah,
night.
I'm
We're gonna
not.
be like knackered by the time we do the
I
episode.
think I'm
It's gonna be
calling it the Road
ridiculous.
to Infinity Nors. Or Nor. I don't know. I haven't figured out a punchy title yet, but there'll be
Just call it
something.
like
The Road-
Infinity Suffering.
Infinity Road. It never
Infinite
ends.
Suffering.
Infinite Suffering. That's what
Yeah.
we're calling it. We've just
Just
settled on the
fun.
name.
Just let us
Infinite Suffering.
end it now.
Hashtag let me die. But no, that's going to do it for this week. If you have any questions or comments, you can either leave them in the YouTube comments, or you can email us. All that stuff is in the show notes. If you leave a review on iTunes, it does help us out. Don't know why I'm plugging this now. I've never plugged iTunes before, but it's just kind of happening. I'm still talking. So I think that's all the stuff. As always, I'm at DC, I'm a Hey Pie.
I'm at Literal Citrus.
I'm at Laura Ducky B.
And we'll see you guys next week.